Carpenter Andersen and the Nisse, written by Alf Prøysen. Once upon a time there was a dad named Carpenter Andersen, and he had many children, as dads usually have. And then there was a Christmas Eve when he sneaked out as the wife and kids were cracking nuts to eat Filipina. He was going down to the woodshed, because there a Julenisse outfit was hanging, and on a sled there was a large bag of Christmas gifts. Then Carpenter Andersen dressed up and pulled the sled with the bag out to the courtyard. But this particular night the courtyard had patches of ice on the ground, so Carpenter Andersen slipped and landed on top of the bag on the sled. There was a hill down to the main road, and the sled started sliding down there with both Andersen and the bag of gifts. Just by the main road a man came walking, and he too was dressed as a Julenisse. "Out of the way!" yelled Carpenter Andersen, and tried to steer clear, but he couldn't see very well behind the Nisse mask, and he ran straight into the other man, so they both fell into the ditch. "I apologize," said Carpenter Andersen. "I apologize as well," said the other. "It seems like we're out on the same errand," said Carpenter Andersen. "You've got the Julenisse outfit on as well," he said and laughed. Then he offered his hand and introduced himself. "Carpenter Andersen." "The Julenisse," said the other, and offered his own hand. "Haha, yes, you can fool around a bit. It is Christmas Eve, and then it's not so odd," said Carpenter Andersen. "Exactly," said the other. "And if you're thinking what I am thinking right now, then I'll go to your children and give them presents, and then you go to my children and give them presents. But if so, you will have to take off the Nisse outfit." "But, what would I dress like then?" Carpenter Andersen asked. "You don't have to dress up like anything. My children see Nisses all year round. But a real carpenter, now that they have never seen. And every Christmas I say, if you are good now, then Carpenter Andersen will come on Christmas Eve when I travel around with the gifts to all the human children. But then I never crossed paths with you before. Could we trade so my children don't have to sit alone all Christmas Eve?" "Yes, we could do that," said Carpenter Andersen. "But it's only that I don't have any gifts for your children." "Gifts?" the Nisse said. "Aren't you a carpenter?" "Well, yes," said Andersen. "Then just bring some pieces of wood and a few nails. And perhaps you have a knife?" Yes, Carpenter Andersen did have a knife, and he found a few pieces of wood and some nails in the woodshed. "Now you can just follow my footprints into the woods," said the Nisse. "Then I'll take the sled and your bag and knock on the door. You're on the first floor, right?" "Yes," said Carpenter Andersen. And then the Nisse walked up to the carpenter's house, and Carpenter Andersen went into the woods where the Nisse had walked. He didn't have to go far. It was only past 2 spruce trees and a rock and a tree stump. And behind the stump, 3 small Nisse hats were poking up. Here he comes," shouted the Nisse children, and ran ahead towards a tree felled by the wind with its roots up in the air. And when Carpenter Andersen came to the other side of the root, the Nisse wife stood there waiting. "He's here, Mom. Carpenter Andersen is here. Look at him, isn't he tall?" "Now, kids, you make it sound like you've never seen people before," said the Nisse wife. "But we've never seen a real carpenter before," yelled the kids. "Well, come in and be welcome," said the Nisse wife, and lifted a branch. And Carpenter Andersen bent his long back and squeezed past the branch, and then he stood in a little room with a stone floor and tree-root chairs and moss beds with blankets of cranberry heather. In the smallest bed lay a little child, and in the corner sat an old Nisse and nodded. "Have you got your knife? Have you got wooden nails?" The Nisse children bombarded Carpenter Andersen with questions as they dragged him along with them. Now, let Andersen come in the door before you start nagging him," said the Nisse wife. "Sit down, Andersen." "Is there an unknown Nisse here?" piped the old man in the corner. "It is Andersen, the carpenter," yelled the Nisse wife in his ear. "He's so old, Grandpa, he never gets out any more. Go over and say hello, then he will be happy." Andersen went over and greeted the old Nisse and shook his hand. It was like holding bark splinters. "Now sit down, Carpenter Andersen," said the kids. "Do you know what you're making for me?" said the oldest Nisse boy, and smiled with one tooth. "You're making a sled. Could you do that? A toy sled?" "I can try," said Andersen. And it wasn't long until the sled was finished. "And now it's my turn," said the middle Nisse child. It was a girl who was squirming where she stood, with 2 braids in her hair. "What would you like?" asked Andersen. "A bed for a doll," said the Nisse girl. "Do you have a doll, then?" Andersen asked. "No, but I can borrow the forest mouse's kid sometimes, and I can play with the squirrel kids as much as I want. They love playing house. Make a doll bed, then." And Andersen made a doll bed. "And what do you want?" he asked the youngest Nisse boy, who was shy and had 3 freckles on his nose. "I don't know," the boy whispered. "Oh, he knows. He knew earlier today. Just say it, then," said the other kids. "A spinning top," the little boy whispered. "Oh, then you'll get one," said Andersen, and made a spinning top. "And now you have to make something for Mum," the kids insisted. The Nisse wife had stood and watched the whole time and was hiding something behind her back. "Shush, children," she said. "Just tell me what you would like," said Andersen. "Yes," said the wife, and showed what she was hiding behind her back. It was a porridge ladle, but it was old and splintered, and had a huge crack, so you could definitely not eat soup with it. "Could you repair this, do you think?" Said Andersen, while he scratched himself with the pencil he had behind his ear. "Better make a new one for you." And then he whittled out a nice root he found by the entrance, and made a ladle to the Nisse wife. And when he had done that, he found a straight root with a crook in the top, and sat down to whittle. But he didn't say anything. The kids nagged him, wanting to know what he was making. But Andersen didn't speak a word until he was done, and then the root had become a nice walking stick. "Here we go, Grandad," Andersen yelled, and went over to the old Nisse with the walking stick. And lastly he took all the splinters and made a little bird on light wings that he hung over the bed over the baby Nisse boy. "Oh, this was something," said the Nisse wife. "Thank you very much, Andersen. Say thank you, children. Come here and thank Andersen. Yes, this Christmas Eve we will never forget." "Thank you, thank you, thank you," shouted the kids. Then the old Nisse came tottering over the floor with his new walking stick and said, "Thank you very much." Now Andersen could hear someone outside the door, and then he said, "Well, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year." Then he hurried outside, and there stood the Nisse with the sled and the bag now empty of gifts. "Thank you for your help, Andersen," said the Nisse. "Oh, don't mention it. They were glad for the gifts, and now they are just waiting for you to come home, I would think. How did it go with you? He wasn't scared of you, my youngest boy?" "Oh, far from it," said the Nisse. "He thought it was you, he did. 'Sit on the lap of my daddy,' he said all the time." "Yes, I'd better hurry home," said Andersen, and he said Merry Christmas once more, and then he left. Can I see your presents then? He asked his children when he came home. But the kids just laughed. You've already seen them when he delivered the presents, dressed as a nisse. No, I've been with the nisse children making gifts for them, said Andersen. But the children did not believe that for a second. Then Andersen came over to me one night during the Christmas week and asked me to write a story about it. And that is what I have done.